Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, Anita Finley.
Dr. Paul Coleman, psychologist, author, speaker. You, of course, have heard him before. It's such a joy to have him on our radio show. And even though many of his patients are not in joy all the time, that's what Dr. Coleman tries to do, to try to get that person to see that there is joy in the life. So Dr. Coleman, it was our publisher's choice for January 2016, and the name of his book was Finding Peace When Your Heart is in Pieces, a step-by-step guide to the other side of grief, loss, and pain. Thank you for being with us today.
It's my pleasure. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to have you talk. So many people are in trouble, and it seems like more and more people are in pain this way, not physical pain, but mental pain, and no one seems to know that. They hide it so well. And what makes them wind up in your office?
Oh, it's an interesting question. They come in with a certain set of problems. The more common ones I see are either anxiety disorders, panic attacks, phobias, trauma, it's big, emotional trauma, or relationship problems, or grief. Those tend to be the top three. It really boils down to just a few things. I think for anybody who comes in any therapist's office, what do they want? And I think there's three things. They want to have more love in their life, a more fulfilling sense of love. They want to reduce their fears, and they want to have meaning and purpose. And usually all of those three things get addressed at some point because they tend to underlie what's going on with their problems that they're coming in with. One of those things is getting hurt, and maybe a relationship breakup, so their love life is hurting, or they've lost their meaning and purpose because somebody has died, or they have a lot of fears from trauma or phobias. But those are the three fundamental areas why anybody, I think, would come into a therapist's office or talk to somebody who needs help.
Yes, that's a very good idea for people who are listening now, to try to find someone who can help you. And that's another point. I had a friend who went from therapist to therapist because she said, well, I think it was a woman, I didn't like her, okay. Mm-hmm. Then she went to another person, she didn't like her either. Now, does that happen a lot because they don't like themselves?
No. I must tell you that, it's a field where there does have to be some kind of connection, I think, because you're bearing your soul. And people have different personalities. And some therapists, their personality style can be very reserved, and that can make some people uncomfortable, but some people like it. I tend to be, kind of what you see is who I am. I tend to be directive, meaning I will give people, this is what I want you to do, or this is what I think you should think about. But I tend to use humor. I relax with people. They don't see a facade. The professional me is kind of like the private me, in some ways, I suppose. But then, but I think you have to have that connection. Now, there are times, I've seen somebody once or twice, and they don't come back. And I find out from a relative of theirs, or they call me later, and they didn't like what I said. It's like, sometimes I don't want to hear.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
So you really have to ask yourself, if you're a person who wants to see a therapist, am I not liking what I hear because it makes me uncomfortable because there might be truth to it? Or am I not liking what I hear because I think the therapist just has no clue what I'm all about? And so it takes that honesty. One of the favorite things I love to hear from clients, a phrase, would be, I never thought of it that way before, or I never looked at it that way before. And it takes a willingness to get out of your own patterns of thinking, to embrace what somebody else is telling you when you're looking at it from a different angle. Because a lot of people want to feel better, but they want to maintain their view of themselves and others and the world. And that can't work. Something's got to give.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And and I can tell you from just talking with you on the radio, there is something, a very kind, very knowing. I mean, I talk to hundreds of people on the radio, and you have a certain style that if I needed help, I would certainly know that you would be able to help me, because there's a gentleness in your voice. That's funny, isn't it, that I say that? You feel gentle?
I've been told that. A lot of people feel very comfortable. I make my office very comfortable. So people feel comfortable sitting in here. You know, I used to work for the state of New York, my very first job 30 years ago. And the offices were horrible. They were kind of dirty. The walls weren't clean. It was pretty much folding chairs. It's like, oh my gosh, this is not what's going to make people feel comfortable. So I think that's important. I think a therapist has to be authentic as much as possible, and so that they can trust you. And so I think it helps. Everybody has to figure out who are they, who am I? Over the years, we get to learn about ourselves. Therapists get to learn about ourselves just by being a therapist, because you see other people with so many issues and concerns, and you have to deal with that it gets you to look inward as well. And hopefully you can do that as a therapist, because you want the clients to do it, to be honest with yourself.
That's a good point. So what made you write the book? I mean, you've written a lot of books. We talked about them. A lot of them are out of print because, they sold, and now you had to write something else. So finding peace when your heart is in pieces. And it's a guidebook. It's really different than just I've called it a how-to book in a way, but it's very, very well written, and I think it touches everyone. I don't care. There's a chapter or something that everyone says, oh, yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's lots of reasons multiple reasons why you write a book. First, you have to have an interest in it. And it's something, the truth behind every good self-help book is that the author is also writing about something that the author wants to be better at or wants to learn more about. I've written books that I could write in my sleep, some of my older books. And, yeah, they're factually correct. They're probably very helpful. And, I love the stuff and as I go along, I'm excited about writing it because I'm discovering higher truths and other ways of looking at things as I'm writing the book. That's what's exciting, where the writer grows as well. And that's one reason. Another reason is that I think peace of mind is something that we all need. People will talk about stress reduction and how do I cope and how do I get through something. But we want to have inner peace of mind as well. We want to be able to find that place in our soul, in our hearts, in our lives, where we can be at peace, even if things around us aren't peaceful. That's the mistake people make, is they say, I'll be at peace when everything else around me is calmed down and everything's going the way I want. Well, that's not very often usually. There's always something that comes up. How can we have that inner peace? That is another reason. Then there are mystical reasons. I don't know if we've talked about the mystical reasons before, but I'll mention one. I had been delaying writing this book for quite some time. I knew kind of what I wanted to do, but I wasn't exactly sure. And I kept trying and then postponing it. And then something very strange happened. It started out, and I'll try to be as quick as possible.
It's okay. Go ahead.
On a Sunday morning, I was getting ready to come to my office to get caught up on paperwork. And an acquaintance of mine, someone I see maybe once a year, called me. because a neighbor of his had passed away suddenly, and his younger daughter was very good friends with the woman who had passed. And he wanted advice from me on how he should talk to his daughter about that. So I spent some time on the phone with him, but because I did, I left my house about 20 minutes later than anticipated. And then walking into the building of my office on a Sunday, it's quiet, no one else is there, I hear this flutter. And right above me, maybe about 5 or 6 feet above me, zoomed a hawk heading straight towards the building. And I hear this whomp, this crash. And what it was the hawk had been carrying a pigeon, and it killed the pigeon by throwing it against the building.
Oh, no.
It was very bizarre, very violent, and the hawk flew away because I was right there. I checked 20 minutes later, the pigeon was gone, so the hawk had come back for it. I did my paperwork, and my plan was to go to a bookstore after this because I wanted to buy a book for something to read. And I went to the bookstore, and my eye caught a book title. I wasn't planning on going into this section, and the book title had to do with the symbology of animals. And I said, I'm going to look up hawk. And I looked up these hawks, and there's a bunch of pictures of hawks, and I found the hawk that I saw. And it said that this hawk is from the Northeast, so I'm in New York, and this hawk likes pigeons. I said, yeah, that's the hawk, all right. It said this hawk is called the ghost bird. And if you see this hawk, it means you need to be doing more spiritual work. And that instantly came to my mind as I need to get this book going. I left the bookstore, I crossed the street to a coffee shop, and I looked down and they handed me the coffee. They sell CDs. They only had one CD, and the title was Ghost Bird. And I was like, whoa, there's that title again. And then I heard my name called, and it was this gentleman that had phoned me in the morning, who I see once a year, who had moved an hour south of me. And now he's about an hour and 20 minutes north of where he's living. And we're in the same coffee shop at the same time. And he said he was visiting his family. He was heading home, south of where we were, was going to pass another coffee shop along the way because he wanted a coffee. He said, something told me to go north, out of my way, and go to this car. He says, I don't know why I did. And I said, well, that's interesting. We just spoke this morning. And I told him the ghost bird story. And his eyes bugged out. And he likes to take photographs. And he opened up his cell phone. And it's a photograph he had taken of trees with sunlight coming through. And when the photo came out, it was totally distorted. And what there was this picture of a white, ghostly hawk. And he called it his ghost bird. So within about 15 minutes, I had 3 references to ghost bird. And I said, I have to be doing more spiritual work, which I knew meant I have to get going on this book. And I did. That was the final kick in the pants.
What a story.
Isn't that something?
It's amazing.
Those kinds of things happen. Those kinds of things happen to me.
But you have to pay attention, right? You have to be mindful.
You have to pay attention. You have to be curious. But the odds that strange word, ghost bird, would occur within a 15-minute span 3 times. It just said, there's more going on here. So that's when I said, okay, I got to hunker down and start writing this book.
Okay, and that's really a good story. I mean, you have to be careful who you tell that to, or they'll think you need to go to a psychiatrist.
I know. Some people think, I know. Well, that's the other cool thing is that, I can have these strange experiences happen. And I've had quite a few synchronicities. And I tell some of them in the book. Just odd experiences that you just shake your head and say, what are the odds of that happening? But it happens. And I think that also makes me more real because when I tell these stories to clients, and I don't tell them just to tell them, I tell them because for some reason it may seem pertinent to what they're discussing. And they'll look at me and they'll say, well, I'm so glad you told me that. And then they tell me their own story of something very mystical that happened. And I said, I've never told anybody because I thought they'd think I was crazy. Well, I don't think you're crazy. Usually there's more going on behind the scenes of our lives And it's kind of interesting to open to that possibility, to be open to synchronicities, which are meaningful coincidences that are just hard to shake as pure random coincidence. There's more going on.
Absolutely, and I've been a real devotee of Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Oh, yes.
And of course, that's what he writes about. I mean, it's so much of pay attention, and yes, that's what it is. And anyway, it's really great. Let me tell everybody again, we're listening. It's a fascinating, fascinating author, Dr. Paul Coleman. And Dr. Coleman wrote Finding Peace When Your Heart is in Pieces, a step-by-step guide to the other side of grief, loss, and pain. I would really suggest that when you buy this book, you will go through it and you will find things in that will apply to you or to family members. You'll really enjoy it. It's not, it's a paperback, and it's very well written. And I'll just tell you, you can find it by going to Amazon.com. You could actually find it by going findingpeaceinyourheart.com or paul-coleman.com. And you're calling in from New York?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And so we're about to go to New York, and I hope the weather's good.
Right now, it feels like an autumn day. It was down to 40 degrees last night, which was unusual. It's about 70 today, so it's a little cooler, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's.
If people do go to my website, I have many different names for the website. FindingPeaceInYourHeart.com. On the top, there's a YouTube button you can click, and I do have some brief videos of me talking about some of the things that I talk about in the book. So if people want to watch those videos, they're more than welcome.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Of course, we put everything on YouTube also, but the fact that you have some of them yourself and they're probably moving, where we're just doing it very stationary with your picture, and then we have the sound. But I tell you what, I'm going to ask you about something that, and I'm going to get political, but this whole thing with Trump has become, it is out of this world. It is so, I don't even have a word for it, but what was happening to me is I was becoming obsessed. I had to watch a TV, and I was so upset, and I was yelling at him on the TV, and my husband said, "He can't hear you. What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know. I'm getting steam off. I can't stand it." So, and we've heard a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists discussing him. This must be fun in your world, seeing someone like this. There's a lot of comments, I'll bet. I hope you're not. I hope he's not one of your favorite people, because then you'll never talk to me again.
Well, I got to tell you, politically, I'm not happy with any of the people we have up there. I feel like they all have high negatives. Well, Hillary does and Trump does. And I think they have high negatives for reasons, and it's a little disconcerting that, whoever we vote for this year, we're voting as much against the other person as we are for somebody, and I'm troubled by that. I would say that, this represents this whole Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump rebellion. It means that this is sort of like the 1960s of sorts. There was a big transformation in the 1960s. There was the flower children and all that stuff, and there were protests against the Vietnam War. But it represented a shift. The country was a little different after that. It wasn't the same. It wasn't the 1950s, with Leave It to Beaver anymore. And I think this is what's happening again. I don't know whether it's going to be a positive shift or a negative shift, but it feels like something's crumbling. And very often, like my book is about transformation, in one way of looking at it. And very often transformation starts because the status quo of your life goes away, like the bottom falls out for whatever reason. And then you're forced to come to grips with a new way of being or a new world to look at. Well, that's sort of what's happening. Now, if Hillary Clinton gets elected, we are going to have more status quo because she's been in politics for quite some time, and She's part of the political establishment. If she does not get elected, and we have Donald Trump, then there's going to be a big shakeup. I have no clue whether that's going to lead to positive or negatives. My hunch is it's going to lead to negatives, at least initially, because there's usually a huge resistance to huge shakeups. The status quo fights back.
Interesting.
But it could result in some transformation. And I don't know what that means exactly. It might be that, they start having term limits for politicians, which would be an interesting thing. It could be that, who knows? But it does feel transformational. It feels like there are people on each side of the left and the right that feel disenfranchised. And now they're speaking out. They're saying we don't like the leaders that we have. They're not really giving us what we want. Republicans are saying, the Republicans in Congress didn't do anything to really stop Obama. And there's a lot of people on the far left who think Obama did not go far enough in a lot of his things. They're against the drones, for example. And there's a lot of people who thought President Obama was going to bring about a big, major change in their lives, who are finding that their lives haven't changed so much. So there's a lot of disenchanted people. And I think they want to see something different. Whether or not it will result in that remains to be seen in November.
Well, I want to ask you, and now that you're talking about that, we'll bring it back in a sense to the patients. There are always people who blame other people for things. And is that because that's part of their personality, their weakness, I don't blame anybody. I don't, so.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, I don't. I don't blame people. I just accept things and try to make it better in other ways. But is that part of a history of that person's life or personality or what?
Well, I think part of it is, what we call ego. Our ego tries to protect us. It wants us to get, to overcome the fear. It might make us afraid, so we don't risk losing, self-esteem or something. And our ego wants us to get what we desire, right? So when we blame somebody, what we're doing is we're protecting ourselves from blaming ourselves. We're not accepting responsibility either for our role in what happened, if we did have a role, but even if we didn't have a role. I see people who come into my office and they're adults and they blame their parents, say, or they blame an upbringing. And let's say they had a lousy upbringing. They were definitely hurt. And I get that, and we talk about it, and I completely understand it, and I'm very empathetic about it. But then the question becomes, however, this is now your life. And what are you going to do? And the blaming stance gets them nowhere. So everyone has to start taking responsibility for their own choices and their own reactions and for their own life. So more self-reliance. And the blaming gives power to other people. As long as I blame someone else for why I'm unhappy, then I need them to change in order for me to be happy. And I see that in society, with people pointing fingers saying, you have to do this, you have to change. Whatever it is, you have to give us more money, or you have to change the law, or you have to be not offending me. Whatever it is, that's the wrong way to go, because you're not making yourself happier. You're saying someone else has that power over my life. So it's a defensive posture. It makes us feel a little better about ourselves, but it doesn't really change anything. So in the journey of transformation, we're always fighting dragons. That's the story. You go into the dark forest and you find all these creatures that try to hurt you, and you have to get out your sword and slay them to get to the other side. The dragons are always ourselves. It just looks like somebody else. It takes the form of somebody else, but it's really ourselves that we have to slay. The self that we have to slay is the ego self to get to that higher self. And as long as we're blaming somebody else, we're not going to do that.
Do you handle children? Do you deal with them? I was thinking of, I could picture as you talk to them, they're drawing a dragon.
Well, yeah, I don't work with children. I don't work with adults. But Yeah, but that's what it comes down to. Is we have to transform ourselves. We have to be a change in our lives, and people don't see it that way. They see someone else has to change.
Well,
they give up power.
Okay, so if someone was not fortunate enough to meet you and go through your personal psychiatric care and work, if they bought your book, do you think that they could get somewhere with your book? I personally think that, but there are some people so I don't know what the word is exactly, so deep in with problems that they, even if they read your book, they can't get out of their own way?
Well, anything that's going to help us, any book that we read that's going to motivate us, usually is because you find something in the book that's just a little bit outside of what you've been doing, but what you're capable of doing if you saw it from that angle, right? So if we tell somebody something that's just way far beyond what they're capable of, they're going to close the book, right? But in any book like mine, there's something in there, and it may, for one person, it might be just one paragraph. And if that paragraph resonates and it makes them go, gee, I didn't think of that way before, or gee, that's interesting, let me try that. Mm-hmm. That's where you start. And then it's the kind of book that if you make some changes and you read the book a year from now, you're going to see whole new things that you don't even remember having read before, because now you're ready for it. We don't realize that we don't take advantage of the things we're learning until we're ready. So find the things that you can do, find the things that resonate, and work with them. Don't worry about the stuff that doesn't resonate with you right now. It might resonate with you later.
That's good advice, and I've had that happen many times. Actually, with Dr. Dyer's books, when I first read them, they were very complicated. But I took chapter by chapter. I've been reading them, and it's really been very positive. But again, I guess this is the time I get with you, and that's it. And I just love this fact that you take your time, and I know you help a lot of people, and we thank you so very much. And I hope people will buy your book, Finding Peace When Your Heart is in Pieces. And my guest has been Dr. Paul Coleman. Thank you for sharing all this.
I always enjoy our time together. Anytime. Take good care of yourself.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye.